Buffalo Bills training camp just got wild. Here's everything you need to know. Storm clouds rolled over Pittsburgh this week, and no, we're not just talking about the weather. Thunder, lightning, sideways rain. St. John Fisher got hit with a genuine meteorological monsoon. But if you think that was the biggest story out of Buffalo Bills training camp this week, think again. Because while the sky was falling, something even bigger was brewing on the practice field, and it's about to change how you think about this Bills team heading into the season. Grab a coffee, get comfortable, because we've got a mountain of updates to get through, and trust me, you do not want to miss a single one of these. Let's start with the calendar, because context matters here. Training camp is compressed this year, shorter than usual, and that's by design. With a brand new stadium on the horizon, the team's time at St. John Fisher is limited, which means every single practice carries a little extra weight. July 31st was a lighter day, more of a walkthrough than a war. Blame the league's rules around padless practices if you want. But don't expect every veteran to be thrilled about it. Just ask Tom Brady, who's been publicly grumbling about exactly that kind of scheduling recently. But August 1st? That's when things go full throttle. First horn now blows at 8:30 in the morning, a full hour and 15 minutes earlier than in years past, giving players a longer runway into the afternoon. It's a small scheduling tweak, but it says everything about how differently offensive coordinator turned head voice of this team, Joe Brady, wants to run things compared to the McDermott era. This isn't just a new coach, it's a new tone. And Brady's message to his team has been blunt: wake up, let's go. Now here's where it gets exciting. Forget the rain, the sloppy footing, the early mistakes you'd expect on day 1 and 2 of any camp, because buried underneath all of that chaos was a moment that might define the entire Buffalo Bills season. Josh Allen and DJ Moore are, by every account coming out of camp, completely in sync. We're talking about the kind of chemistry that takes some receiver-quarterback duos years to build. And these two are flashing it in the first 48 hours. Day 1 brought a couple of highlight reel grabs. Day 2, a 50-yard touchdown that had people buzzing. Yes, there were a few drops mixed in. That's training camp, that's football. But make no mistake, DJ Moore looks primed for what could be the best season of his entire career. And he is firmly entrenched as this offense's true number 1 receiver. Here's the twist nobody was talking about enough. Josh Allen has actually been trying too hard to be perfect. Sources close to the situation say Allen has been overthinking his ball placement, aiming instead of trusting his arm, almost like he felt this enormous pressure to replicate what Stephon Diggs brought to this offense in years past. DJ Moore's advice to him was refreshingly simple. Stop aiming, pick a spot, and let it fly. And according to those in the building, that's exactly when things started clicking. Sometimes the fix isn't complicated. Sometimes it's just permission to trust your talent. But DJ Moore isn't the only receiver turning heads, for better and for worse. Keon Coleman has been out there working kick returns, which tells you the wide receiver depth chart is more wide open than anyone expected. And in a moment that could have gone very differently, Josh Allen targeted Coleman early and often on day 1, only for Coleman to drop the very first pass thrown his way. Most quarterbacks might hesitate to go right back to a guy after that. Allen didn't blink. He kept targeting him. And that's not nothing. Coleman is still only 23 years old, still developing. But general manager Brandon Beane has been singing his praises, saying the light has genuinely come on for the young receiver. If that maturity is real, Buffalo might have found its wide receiver 3 hiding in plain sight. Now, let's get into what might be the most heartwarming and most surprising story to come out of camp so far. Everyone, and I mean everyone, expected CJ Gardner-Johnson to be a problem. This is a player who has bounced around the league on 7 different teams, who spent time in Chicago and Houston just last year alone, who was already causing a stir before camp even began when Coach Joe Brady had to pull him aside and tell him to shut down his live stream. Fans were already writing him off as a locker room cancer before he even put on a helmet. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of blowing up, instead of becoming the distraction everyone predicted, Gardner-Johnson had a quiet, respectful, man-to-man conversation with his coach, away from the cameras, away from the locker room, and both sides simply moved on. No drama, no headlines, just accountability. And then came the moment that's stealing hearts across Bills Mafia. Gardner-Johnson sat down with a college staffer and, completely out of pocket, paid off $20,000 of her student loans. Let that sink in. This is a player on a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. A guy who has racked up 20 career interceptions and played at a Pro Bowl level, and instead of making headlines for drama, he's making them for generosity. On his own live stream shortly after, an emotional Gardner-Johnson told fans he wants to be a Buffalo Bill for the next 5 years. He called it being a Bill for life, raved about the culture, and said head coach Joe Brady holds everyone accountable, and that anything less than 100% simply isn't good enough around here. For a guy who's played for 7 teams in 8 years, hearing him say he's finally found a home after just 3 days in Buffalo, that says everything about the culture this franchise has built. And speaking of culture, brace yourself, because the defense is getting a total identity overhaul. After 9 years under Sean McDermott, the defensive philosophy is shifting, and it's shifting in a big way under new leadership from Jim Leonard. In a genuinely touching moment, Leonard paid tribute and respect to McDermott's legacy before pivoting the unit toward a more positionless scheme. His pitch to the players is simple but smart. Forcing offenses to adjust their blocking schemes and pre-snap reads creates more one-on-one matchups and better angles, both against the run and in the pass rush. Some players who've spent their careers with a hand in the dirt are being freed up to stand tall, and vice versa. It's about maximizing what each player naturally does best. One name that keeps coming up? Ed Oliver. Now entering his 8th NFL season as a former top 10 draft pick from 2019, Oliver is being treated as the ultimate bet of this new-look defense. Leonard's message about him has been simple. People need to find him. Last season, injuries limited Oliver to just 3 sacks, but when healthy, he was an absolute game wrecker on the interior. Both Leonard and Brandon Beane are fired up about what a fully healthy, fully unleashed Ed Oliver could look like this season, and honestly, so are we. If this is finally the year he hits the ceiling everyone projected coming out of college, we could be watching an all-pro caliber defensive tackle take over games. And it doesn't stop there. Greg Rousseau is reportedly being moved to a stand-up role, a shift that plays directly into his elite length and could unlock a serious push toward double-digit sacks, something that's flown under the radar for this defense. With TJ Parker, Bradley Chubb, and Michael Hoyt all healthy and back in the building, the pass rush suddenly has serious layers. Rousseau unlocks more one-on-ones for Oliver, Oliver unlocks more space for the rest of the front, and the entire unit starts to feed off itself in a way Bills fans haven't seen in years. Then there's the name nobody was talking about entering camp who suddenly can't stop making plays. Caleb Alebieri. This 4th-round rookie linebacker who reportedly posted a top 10 athletic profile among every linebacker ever measured by the relative athletic score is holding down significant inside linebacker reps. With Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard both working through individual rehab on the side right now, the door is wide open, and by all accounts, Alebieri is kicking it down. Beane himself has praised the rookie's spring performance, and don't be shocked if this 4th-rounder is lining up as a starter right next to Terrell Bernard come Week 1. Here's what should genuinely excite Bills fans. This defense is out here making plays against an offense that's supposed to be scoring 30-plus points a game. That's usually not how training camp goes this early. Typically, it's the offense torching a defense still finding its footing. Instead, names like TJ Sanders, rookie Jalen Kilgore, Joe Andreessen, and Gardner-Johnson are all stacking good rep after good rep. Granted, pads haven't gone on yet, and everything can change once the real hitting starts, But right now, this defense looks coached up in a way that has fans and analysts genuinely buzzing. The secondary is shaping up to be must-watch television too. Christian Benford is entrenched as a lockdown option capable of shadowing top receivers, while a fascinating cornerback battle is brewing behind Hairston for that number 2 role. Hairston brings length and zone versatility. The rookie challenger brings press man aggression. Two very different toolkits that give this coaching staff real flexibility depending on what an offense throws at them. And in a press conference just days ago, Jim Leonard dropped a genuinely surprising scouting nugget. He called safety prospect Max a natural man coverage corner who can run and challenge receivers, a sharp contrast to his college tape where he was mostly known as a zone coverage ball hawk. If Leonard's reads are right, we could be looking at a potential breakout sophomore leap. At safety, keep your eyes on the pairing of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Cole Bishop. Bishop in particular has essentially had a private tutoring session all camp with Jim Leonard, a former safety himself, refining his game in real time. If this duo lives up to the hype, some are already calling it the best safety tandem Buffalo has had in over a decade. And when your back end is that locked down, it frees up the entire front seven to be more aggressive getting after the quarterback. It's a domino effect, and right now, every domino looks like it's falling in the right direction. On the offensive line, the battle at left guard remains a genuine toss-up between Alec Anderson and Austin Corbett. Anderson opened camp with the first-team reps, but Corbett was right back in that mix on day 2. According to Brandon Beane, the number 1 priority for this entire offensive line is simple: protect number 17 at all costs. Expect Buffalo to mix and match personnel situationally between rundowns and passing downs to keep opposing defenses guessing, because showing your hand before the snap is never good football. Then there's the tight end room, which might be this offense's most quietly dangerous weapon. If Dalton Kincaid's knee, recovering from a PCL injury, holds up, he has legitimate top 5 receiving tight end upside in the entire NFL. Add in Jackson Harris, regarded as one of the top 2 or 3 blocking tight ends in football according to fifth grading, plus a healthy Dawson Knox, and Buffalo suddenly has a 3 tight end arsenal that mirrors a league-wide trend. Just look at this year's NFL draft, where playoff teams like Jacksonville doubled up on tight ends specifically to run more heavy personnel packages. If Kincaid stays healthy, this offense has a genuine matchup nightmare on its hands. Josh Allen, a strong offensive line, 3 capable tight ends, James Cook in the backfield, and DJ Moore stretching the field, all on the same snap. Good luck defending that. On special teams, kicker Tyler Bass is officially back, and as of right now, the only kicker taking reps, which is worth monitoring, but he sounded confident and healthy in recent comments, saying his body feels good even though it took time to fully ramp back up after his injury. Wide receiver Tyrell Shavers remains the lone player currently on the physically unable to perform list, while Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams continue working through individual rehab drills off to the side. Meanwhile, edge rusher Michael Hoyt is fully practicing and reportedly playing like a man with his hair on fire, ready to attack opposing quarterbacks all season long. A few final housekeeping notes before we wrap up. Buffalo has signed cornerback DJ Miller straight out of the UFL, a smaller 5'10" defensive back who spent time with the Aviators. Realistically, this looks like a pure depth move. Don't expect him to crack the 53-man roster, though a practice squad spot isn't out of the question depending on how health shakes out through camp. Meanwhile, veteran Dante Pettis could carve out a real role in the return game, especially with genuine uncertainty still surrounding Keon Coleman, Ray Davis, and McCole Hardman in that department. That's a battle worth watching closely as camp progresses. And finally, here's a juicy one to end on. Just about an hour before this update, word broke that former head coach Sean McDermott is spending the day with the Los Angeles Rams, clearly doing his homework and staying sharp while he waits for his next opportunity. Everything about his his reputation, and his track record screams that he's landing another NFL head coaching job in 2027. The real question is where? Some are eyeing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a fascinating landing spot, given the uncertainty swirling around head coach Todd Bowles' job security. Ongoing tension involving quarterback Baker Mayfield, situations involving veteran defensive lineman Vita Vea, and the surprising departure of star receiver Mike Evans. Nothing is confirmed, of course. This is pure speculation and locker room chatter, but it's the kind of storyline that makes NFL off-seasons endlessly entertaining. And that's a wrap on this jam-packed training camp update. Keep in mind, everything we just covered happened without a single pad being strapped on. Pads go on in just a few days, and once real contact starts, expect this Buffalo Bills story to get even bigger, even faster. This team is loaded with storylines, a receiving core finding its rhythm, a defense that might finally be ahead of the offense, a locker room culture that's turning skeptics into believers, and a coaching search brewing in Tampa Bay that could reshape the entire AFC landscape. If you're locked in for the entire ride this season, make sure you're subscribed, because we're covering this Buffalo Bills team every single step of the way. One day at a time. Smash that like button if you're fired up for this season, and drop a comment down below letting us know exactly where you think Sean McDermott ends up coaching next. Until next time, go Bills, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.